monsters, or they fight each other, or something like that. And we distinguish, in our research, we distinguish what we call closed culture worlds and open culture worlds. The closed culture, the culture is all predefined. That is, for some reason they seem to favor medieval kinds of contexts, and so there's some sort of social hierarchy defined, and you need to do certain things to advance yourself in the social hierarchy. There's certain symbols, symbolic weapons, and so forth that have more prestige, costumes, uniforms, and so forth predefined. In the open culture worlds, in what you see over here, see us lying around here? When we bought this, it's barren land. Could one of you, Greg, could you jump over to some other sites? Just go to the mainland and just jump around a little bit and so on. Ours is an island, but Second Life, in terms of variety, is probably as big as Greater Miami. You could probably spend several months, 24 hours a day, visiting the different places. Every one of those places, every single tree, every blade of grass, every little piece is put there by users. That's why we call them the open culture, because it's only the user. The users are inventing. We have invented one particular version for our purposes, for our educational purposes. Other users do it for their purposes. You'll see little mini societies forming, clubs, special interest groups, and so forth. That's the open culture world, and those are the kind I think are most appropriate for education. It may happen if you're a big organization, for instance, the military. The one that I recall now is when the Israeli army was they were practicing to rehearsing some maneuvers. They modeled the towns and the layout. So they built a dedicated world of war gaming. Now that was their dedicated purpose, and they had the money to put it together. Speaking of money, by the way, the cost of getting into this for students is zero. So I have 50 students in a class. They can become members for zero. If you buy land, the smallest amount, if you start owning things, and owning begins with buying land, that costs you $10 a month. When you get up to buying an island, you have to lay out like $800, because the island is quite big. So, but getting your students involved, you can log in, get involved, navigate around, and be a tourist for nothing. You don't even give up your credit card money. Yes?
I'm sorry, who does the money go to?
You have to speak more loudly.
Who does the money go to? Who gets the...
The company is called Second Life. So there's a company. It's a for-profit company. Yeah. And you just go to Google, type in Second Life. Second Life is by far the most popular of the open culture worlds. And you read articles about Second Life in the Wall Street Journal. There's many companies that are trying to set up presence there as well. Many universities. The islands, if you look at... Greg has now taken us to Amsterdam. I know that because I used to live there. I can recognize the place. I've been to that station many times in real life. Greg, can you give us a quick view of the maps? If you can show us islands. You'll see most of the islands are owned by universities. I'm going to jump back to what I was saying earlier. Other questions? Yes.
My daughter plays this one called The Sims. Is this similar to what she's doing?
Good question. The Sims is very realistic, but it's not a shared. We distinguish between the things you do on a so-called set top locally on your computer, versus the things where you're dealing with other people. Sims, I actually have Sims on this computer too. You can play that by yourself. And there is a Sims online, but it's the main, when people refer to the Sims, it's you're by yourself. You're playing by yourself with artificial characters. So they have their own little artificial intelligence that plays. And Sims is because it's local, so they can give you much better graphics. So it's right on. You don't have to be shipping it over the internet. But the other side of this, and I'm glad you brought it out, is that these, when we say virtual world, we're talking about membership from anywhere in the world. And by the way, since I'm meandering, the artifacts, so people create artifacts, but also people buy and sell these artifacts. So you will see, for instance, I don't know why, but some women seem to like fancy shoes. Also in virtual worlds. They like to have long hair that flows in the wind. Men, you saw Greg's hair. So and so there's a trade in hairstyles, there's a trade in clothes, there's a trade in household items, all of which are virtual creations. And if you look on, I just have my pointer out, in the upper right-hand corner, see that little green number? I can pick up my pointer here. There is, they call it, in this world they call it Linden dollars. And they trade at about 250 Linden dollars to the real dollar. To the real dollar. That is, the things you trade here, you can actually make real money creating artificial objects. So can you see up there, or over here, there's a certain amount of money, it says like 29,000 L dollar sign. And you can convert that, so I can buy Linden dollars, or I can sell Linden dollars at the exchange rate of $1 real dollar to 250 Linden dollars. There was a woman in China, and she was going through a cyber cafe. She got together $10 to buy some land, and she worked that $10, 10 real dollars, to buy some land, and she worked that into $1 million real dollars by buying and selling virtual real estate. Her name in Second Life is, her name in real life is Eileen Graf, because she's since married a German, but her Second Life name is Antje Chung, and she has a very, very nice store in Second Life. You're getting a bit of a feel of what this is, but it is another world, and it's another world where you can create mini cultures. Yes?
Are any of the places real places?
We saw Amsterdam. They're imitations of real places. And you think of this as like a fantastic dollhouse. I mean, where it is, if you can you take us over to Paris?
Oh, that's cool.
Virtual Paris. I mean, it's not as good as really being there, but if you're trying to give somebody like an orientation of what to expect, in some sense, the cartoon version, and that's basically what you get here, is the cartoon version still conveys the salient aspects. Yes.
In the virtual world, like in Paris and Amsterdam, are those cities created by you, or is that like a preset that comes with
Everything in Second Life is created by users.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be a Parisian who created Paris.
Correct. That's correct. Sometimes you'll see the City Chamber of Commerce getting involved in it because they want to make it look like they want to push certain features. You go to there's a virtual Manny Beach or South Beach, and it doesn't look at all like this. They just put up what they wanted to see. Yes.
What language do they use to communicate?
Now, the communications until about, a year and a half, 2 years ago, communications were text. And people, it was heavily English dominated, but there's many people speaking other languages. Text, of course, the QWERTY keyboards we use favor the Romance languages or the Western languages. So Chinese people, Japanese people would have a little bit more difficulty. And they figured it out, and there's ways using the Japanese and so on as well. Since then, however, you see, he's got his headset on. Now, it's really interesting, and later in the demo, we'll hear them speaking to each other through